All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. Tonight's going to be a really fun show. We got a couple of actually three great guys and all different backgrounds, different, touch on a lot of different things within the industry. And this was something I was glad we were able to kind of all hook up. Jason and I were able to hook up with Karthik and Matt and really kind of touch a little bit upon not only their whiskeys, but some of their rums and everything that they've got going on. So, I wanted to put together a nice kind of live stream and let them, talk a little bit about, themselves, how they got into the industry, all of that. And I think it's going to be really interesting. Throughout the night, we'll drop a link in the chat, and then also in the description of the video, there will be links to, if you guys are interested in any of the spirits, you can go check them out at any of those places. So between myself and Jason, we'll drop throughout the night, we'll drop a couple of links in there. But so what we're going to basically do is obviously we'll get to know them a little bit more, but like I said before, we're going to touch upon mainly the RY3, which is something that has just launched maybe not even 2 weeks ago, I don't think, at this point. So we'll talk to the guys about that. We'll figure out or find out a little bit more about what goes into it, the blends, all of that kind of stuff. So let me say hi to a few people in the chat real quick. We had some pre-gamers, so I wanted to highlight a few of those. So let me go back real quick and we'll kind of get into everything. Will Henderson, how's it going, buddy? Chris Beaton, Sugar Kitty, Andrew Buchanan, Mike Meyer, how's it going? Who else we got? Where else? Bourbon Buddies, Neil, how's it going? I don't know. Jeff Perkins, Michael L, DMCKY, how's it going, buddy? All right, so more people are going to jump in here real soon. So, all right, with that being said, Karthik, do you want to take it first and kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into the industry, and be long-winded. Be long-winded.
Long-winded is good. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity, guys. Good evening, everybody. Wherever you are in the world, happy October 27th. My name is Karthik Sudeer. I am the founder and CEO of Phenomenal Spirits. We started the company in 2017, and it was my lifelong dream to be in the spirits industry. But I'm originally comes from a software background. I'm a software engineer, and I'm a graduate too on the software side. But chemistry, art, business, spirits, these are something which always co-mingles together when you have that prior chemistry background and science background and a business background. But anyway, back in 2005 when I came to the United States, that was my first entry into the USA, and I was always fascinated in the Western way of doing things. And after being here for about 15 years, I decided that I really want to pursue my passion. I went to Kentucky, I went to Moonshine University, got my Distillers Certification, which is about 6 or 7 days. For about the third day or so, I knew I didn't want to be a distiller. I wanted to build a brand. I wanted to be in the blending side of the world. I want to be in the brand development, product development, design, formulation, and route to market. That's what something was really fascinated. And after doing my distillers certification, I went back to ADI, got my blending. That's where I really got a lot of lesson about the ABCs or the blending 101s, and from there I started my journey of rum. Rum was the first category which we developed. The reason being, rum is the only category which has never been premiumized. You may see vodka being premiumized, tequila, bourbon, cognac, even the brandy at one point of time was premium. Now it's again coming up. Rum is the only category which has not been premiumized, and I coming from India, where we drink a lot of rum, and been always fascinated. So got an opportunity, put together a team, and that's how the company began. And ever since then, I have never looked back. And I'm based out of Orange County. in Laguna Beach, and our blending house is in beautiful Virginia Beach. And we have a fully functional blending house. We're very proud about it, and we don't outsource anything. We take a lot of pride. It's truly, truly handcrafted, guys. Not just for label. It's truly handcrafted. Every single bottle has been touched, wiped, cleaned, uh, off QA for dust particles, and everything has been done by Matt and I before it gets shipped out. Yeah.
So this is what Matt does in the evenings, just wipe down bottles and things like that.
Pretty much.
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing all that. I appreciate it. So, all right, Matt, do you want to take it away and kind of tell everybody a little bit about you and kind of some of your background? This will be interesting.
So my name is Matt Witzig. I'm the COO and master blender for Phenomenal Spirits. I've been in the industry since 2013. One of the owners and founders of Joseph Magnus Distillery in Washington, D.C. There I was the COO and oversaw all distillation and was the head blender for all of our whiskey, along with the one and great Nancy Fraley. Back in 2018, I started going off and doing a little bit of consulting on my own. And that's where, helped with a couple different startups and had met up with Karthik. It's something he was wanting to do was starting rye brand. And rye is something I was super passionate about. I was lucky enough over the years to distill a couple barrels for myself, and putting out a mass rye for the whole world was something that I always wanted to work on. So we kind of met, had a cigar, sat down on a little bonfire down at the ocean front in Virginia Beach, and struck a deal that night, and that's where we are today. That was a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
It does.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And this is where I really wanted to kind of dive into that I thought was interesting, just in chatting like offline and all that, and some of your background and, Karthik's and all of that, it's always interesting when you get like kind of randomly, you get two people who have the same kind of idea and passion for something that come together to be able to do some really fun and interesting things. And at the end of the day, it's kind of what spirits or bourbon, rums, ryes, all that kind of does. It brings people together, into doing all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it was amazing. I was looking for a master blender for a long time, and to come in-house, be a resident master blender, especially on the rye side, because that was my one of my another favorite subcategory. Rye, as you can see, people start with bourbon, and once they graduate to the next level, they get their PhD in rye whiskey, right? When they get their PhD, they get to rye whiskey, and then they get hooked onto it. And I met Matt, and saw what he had done. I was a big fan of Joseph Magnus and all the blends what he had created, and it was a right transition moment. Sometimes things come together. It takes time, but you got to put the best energy out there in the world. You got to socialize, and you got to wait for it. You can't you can't hurry up. So Matt and I met at a junction where we both needed each other, and ever since then, Matt's taken his role very seriously and he's taken over the operations and blending, and he's been our master blender ever since then.
Well, let's kind of transition into that. So before we get into talking about the products itself, we know that this is going to be a blend. So Matt, I guess if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about the blending of this and kind of what went into it, so that, when we start to get into the tasting, people have an idea of what it is we're tasting, and then what they may have the opportunity to also purchase would be.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of when creating this rye, it kind of came off of things that I'd experienced, things that I personally look for in a rye. There's so many out there. When I personally did my own Mashbills and was distilling my own, something that I did not want to do was 100% rye. I wanted something that was going to be great to sip on and enjoy. And to me personally, my personal flavor profile, going 100% rye wasn't the route I personally wanted.
Yeah.
So definitely wanted to be able to soften that up with some corn. So kind of going down this venture, we wanted to pull in some of the best distillates we could find. One of the base components that we start with is MGP 95% rye. I mean, that's kind of the staple rye out there. Extremely enjoyable, brings some great rye notes. Another one that we wanted to tap into for a little bit older component was jumping into the Alberta 100% rye. Once again, another solid component, made really popular by Whistle Pig. So we wanted to have some piece of that as well. And just coming into my background, things I had done before with bourbon blends is using that component of light whiskey. People that don't know, light whiskey comes off the still at 160 or higher, has to be aged in either used or uncharred cooperage. And it usually is about 99 to 100% corn. And the component that we use for this is 12 years old, and it brings this buttery, smooth cream, amazing mouthfeel to the product that just kind of puts it over the edge. So kind of using all of those components, once again, using that light whiskey, kind of smooth some of those edges of the base rye. And then after that, to tie in with our other company, the Izalco Rum, other brand, we use the Izalco Rum Barrels to finish in, which just brings some great tropical fruity notes from the Central American barrels.
Yeah. And Jason and I were talking about this prior, was how tropical it was. That was like our first thought when we started, trying all of especially the rye, was just that tropical note you got like right away. And now trying both of those, you can see the major influence of both of them, which is kind of a neat thing to do. It's almost like, not quite blending it yourself, but when you try the rum by itself and then you try the RY3, you see that major, influence, Yeah.
And I think the one thing that Scott's noticed, after a few pours, and I've noticed this across other whiskeys that I've had a rum finish to it. I think the first couple pours I've had of this, you definitely got those rye notes right away. You got the butteriness of the light whiskey, but as this thing gets some air and really opens up, just like those other spirits that I've had, the rum notes really come to the forefront as more air gets into the bottle. It gets a little bit more tropical. It gets a little bit sweeter. The rye notes, that spice, they don't go away totally, but they dull a little bit and make way for all this really nice balance of sweet and spicy.
Correct. And at the end of the day, that's when you blend. That's what we're looking for. You want that great balance of the spirit.
Yeah. And that was the thing. That was the one thing, like we were talking about before, was that blending. I mean, that's like the magic. And I think that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. The blenders and really how, integral it is for them to be able to really, hone in on their skill to do that. Because I mean, being, the blender that you are, how important it is to be able to take all of these different spirits and be able to put them together to create, something like this.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think this process, man, we played around with formulations for well over a year, trying all different ages.
We did.
All different products, different percentages, until we really kind of honed in on where it was going to be.
Yeah.
I think
what it is Scott, is even Matt and I had this conversation the other day. If you see the Scotch world, blenders have a lot of prominence, a lot of significance in the Scotch world, in the blended whiskey world, in the single malt world. If you see wine, a lot more significance for the blenders. So is cognac, so is Armagnac. In the USA, I think people are getting used to the idea of blending. It is slowly coming. And that education part of it is becoming more relevant now. And I think, over the course of next 3 to 5 years, people are going to start accepting that blending is an art. Blending, there's a lot of science behind it, and there's a lot of experience required. And I think, the audience is heading in that direction, is what I feel.
Yeah. And it is. I mean, that's exactly, you kind of nailed it with that. I mean, that's where in the bourbon world, everybody talks about the master distiller.
Right.
But there is that. I mean, that's obviously a huge component. But the flip side is that the people who are in the labs and going through the different barrels and pulling things to do all of that blending, I mean, that's really where the magic, is happening, especially on finished whiskeys.
Right.
And
Right.
with the distillation side, you kind of have that recipe that you're following. You have your standards. But once that hits the barrel, you don't know what's going to do.
Yeah.
I had that opportunity a couple months back to go back and taste some of the barrels I distilled, 5 years ago. And things that were distilled on this, came from off the same run, barreled on the same day, sitting side by side in the warehouse together, completely different products.
Yeah.
So it kind of, at that point, it comes up to the blender to be like, what are we going to do with these? How are we going to get these to work?
Yeah, I would even go back to, if you look at what Beam did with their Little Book series, bringing out Little Book 1, Freddie No kind of wanted to shatter that stigma of a blended whiskey, blended bourbon, or whatever it may be, being thought as a cheaper type of whiskey. And I think since then, what we've seen is just more blends and more, what I mean, Matt, what you guys did at Magnus, what you're doing now, what we're seeing in the market, different types of blends, whiskeys put together to create something more unique and rich and more interesting. I think at this point, the educated whiskey drinker, I think, is at a point now where I don't think we really see blends anymore as something that we want to leave on the shelf. We see it as something more interesting to taste.
Yeah, which is great, because a couple years ago, 3-4 years ago, that really wasn't the case yet. People saw, they saw the word a blend or a blended bourbon, blended whiskey, it was kind of immediately shot down. So it's really been in the past couple of years that people are starting to really appreciate the different blends that are going on.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think part of the reason for people like kind of steering away from it was because what you used to be able to do, or maybe even still can, and I guess you guys can touch upon this, but that word blend, it had a lot of terms where you could sneak things into stuff and do all of these other things. So it was kind of like, well, I'm not really getting maybe what I think I'm getting. Therefore, I'm just going to stay away from anything that has the word blended on it.
Right.
It used to be, when you do a blend, a common, component used in the past was just using DNS, grain neutral spirits, as kind of a filler in the product, which obviously, doesn't make for necessarily deep, great whiskey.
Yeah.
Being able to use some different components like a light whiskey, that brings much more depth and richness to the product. Starting to use some of those other components really steps up the blended products.
Let me touch on that. So why, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but so why the 3 different like distillates to put this together? Did it start out that way, or did this kind of just evolve into, kind of like this monster here?
I see Karthik smiling. You go ahead and start with that one, buddy.
So I'm gonna take a stab at it, and I'm sure Matt can finish it. So before I had met Matt, I'm a big fan of rye whiskey and rum, and especially on the premium rum and the premium rye whiskey. I'm especially a big fan of Canadian, 100% Canadian rye. And before I met Matt, I had already gone ahead and purchased aged Canadian rye whiskey sitting in our blending house already. And I'd already made up my mind that a rye blend is going to happen one way or the other. And then all of a sudden, Matt showed up from it's a God's message, right? Matt showed up in my life up here in this venture. And that's how we started. Okay, fine. What's the base component of it, right? Best base in the marketplace is 95.5 MGP. A fine aged 95.5 is perfect. It's char level 4, nice oak. It's got a lot of rye bites to it. It's got depth to it. And every year, every blend, we can create consistency. And then Matt and I started talking about, how do we create something which we can shave off some of the harsh edges? And that's where, Matt and I started working together on, what should be the formulation, what the vision of the product should be. And Matt started talking about the light whiskey. And that's where, how the 3 came together. And, Matt's got a lot of experience blending, whiskey from different distilleries and different, age statements and different mash bills. And light whiskey, really did it. I kid you not, when we got the sample for 12 years of light whiskey, and Matt and I we're contemplating, should we just release this as a brand alone? It was that good. It was that good. It was
I've recently, Scott and I, we've had some really amazing light whiskeys. Old Carter's using some light whiskeys that are just phenomenal. Jay Mattingly is using some. Yep. I know some people poo-poo on that brand, but I think they're really about the experience now. I think they've evolved over some time. My question for you guys is, so when you wanted to build a rye, was it set from the beginning that you wanted to, let's use a rum barrel and see how it could go, or were you focused on just producing a solid rye? When did the rum idea come in, or was that from inception?
Chicken or the egg?
Yeah, it's right from the day. It was right from the day when we knew it. It's going to be a barrel finish. It's going to be a cask finish. The whole idea is the DNA stays within the company, and the whole product development. We have a mainstream, our bread and butter, our rum brand, which is sold internationally, and we have barrels, and we have experience in building amazing, rum products. And there's not many rye whiskeys in the marketplace which finish with rum cask.
And that's what kind of drove me to really want to deep dive in the uniqueness of this. I don't think there's anything that's, I know. I think the closest thing I've seen is really High West. High West does some singular double rye, but those usually come in the form of picks for store. Yeah, for a specific store where they will finish it in something very unique, something very different. So
yeah. So back in the day in 2015, 2014, Angelson, we did a phenomenal job of, creating a cask finish, Caribbean cask finish. Ours is a Central American cask finish, and, Izalco cask finish, different flavor, different positioning. And so, for people who taste it and put side by side, they would know it's different, And then as a rye, there's a lot of brands in the marketplace just as a singular rye, either could be single barrels or age statement or blended, right? But not many finished in a rum cask. And, Matt has such experience finishing in Armagnac, Sauternes, Sherry, Port, so much experience, 8, 9, 10 years of experience that, we had to leverage that experience up here.
Well, that's what Jason and I, we were talking about this the other day when we kind of were talking about some of the products and what we were going to do tonight and all of that. We got to thinking and talking a little bit more about, rye whiskey that has that rum finish. There's really nothing else out in the market that has this. And really, when you think of the two, it's kind of a perfect blend. It kind of seems like it's a natural marriage. You've got the spice from the rye, the sweetness from the rum. I know there's other finishings that people do, but not many ryes that have that rum finishing. So,
and I agree with Matt. I think the whole thing, the rum is delicious. Obviously you got a really nice MGP, 95% rye in there, some Canadian. But I think the thing that brings this all together, and Matt, you said, I think it's the light whiskey.
Yeah.
The light whiskey just gives it this butteriness to it that just kind of, it's like the bridge between, the high rye and the rum finish. It just really brings it all together.
Yeah. Matt, can you talk about a little bit about what that light whiskey does? So when you're kind of blending that with the other two, whiskeys, what is that really kind of doing for it?
Yeah. So for, one of the bigger parts for light whiskey, that when I'm doing it is, first off, it helps, once again, smooth out some of the rougher edges of that rye. It's going to tone down some of that spiciness. It's, 100% corn. So it's, it's going to bring some of that sweetness to it, but also just naturally that the light whiskey has a much thicker mouthfeel, creamy, buttery, that just, it helps with that length of finish on it. This isn't going to be something that's going to be on and off your tongue right away. It's going to sit there and stick on your palate for quite a while. And it's part of that light whiskey that really draws out that finish.
Yeah, it's really nice. I have myself and Jason, we've put the links and stuff. I think Jason's got a better one than I do, but we'll drop a link and stuff throughout the night in there. So if anyone's interested in making a purchase, you can go over to, I think it's, what is it? Curita? What is
Curiata.
it? Curiata.
It's so the finishing product in here, guys. This is a 100 proof rye whiskey. Matt went through the components. We have an NGP 95% rye. We have a 100% from Alberta, and we have a 12-year-old light whiskey in here, and all that is, and then we have it, kind of finished in a rum cask, which makes it very, very different, very interesting. And what's the retail on this? About $52, $55?
55 or 56 bucks on that.
That's a really, really good price for a really good, finished whiskey in today's market. And it's refreshing to see that where this isn't introduced to the market and it's $100, $150 or $200, that you've got a really good product for a really good price. And it allows people to, to really experience a good finished whiskey at a good price.
One thing I think if COVID had showed us anything too is, when during these times, people are going to go to the things that they trust and things that they can get their hands on.
Yeah.
There's not, people aren't, unless it's something they really want, they're a lot more likely to, to buy something around that $50 price tag than they are much higher.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure we had something that was accessible to everybody, and everybody had the chance to enjoy. You wanted somebody sitting there thinking, long and hard if they want to try it at that price point or not.
Yeah.
That's the philosophy of the company. Like, build an amazing product, but, present it to a consumer at the right price where they appreciate it and they don't feel that, they got robbed, So it's a right price, and we want to stay like that. We want to get closer to the consumers, and that's the whole idea. And Matt's got done, he's done slow water reduction during the blending process, and there's so much touch point in the product, moving of product from barrel to the tank. From there, it has to go through to the rum cask finish and slow water reduction for 3 more months. So there's a lot of touch point. Each blend, it's going to take us about 5 to 6 months depending on season.
So Matt, tell us about the blending process for this. So you have your 3 distinct whiskeys, your 3 distinct mash bills. Are all 3 of those being blended and then put in the rum cask, or are different parcels being in a rum? Like, how is it working?
Yeah, so they are. So the very first thing I do was when I have my stock in, I'm gonna go through, take samples of everything, and just we have our main prototype, but we always do a secondary, just to dial in the numbers and the exact percentage points of which product we're going to be using. So after that's kind of done, actually, take the week to do that, go back, make some slight changes. Mm-hmm. And once kind of that prototype has been perfected, we'll go through and I'll actually do the dumping all the barrels. And, they'll go into stainless steel. They'll get blended. They'll sit there for a couple days to make sure they marry properly. And then from there, they'll go into the rum barrels. So each rum barrel is getting all 3, components in them. They're separately by each one.
That's amazing. Yep.
So after it's in there, you never know how long the finishing is actually going to take.
Do you have an average time limit where you're kind of perfecting it, or is it just 2 different each time now?
It's it really comes down to time of year, how long something's going to finish. We were doing this during the summertime, so I was figuring it's going to be around 2 to 3 months that would have finished for, and I check them pretty much daily, sending samples out to Karthik periodically as well, so he got to taste them along with me. And really, when it started hitting that six week, we kind of noticed it was starting to take on a little bit more tannins. It wasn't picking up as much as the rum from the staves.
Uh-huh.
So in week 7 is when we ended up pulling it.
Are these predominantly pretty wet barrels you're throwing in for the rum, or are they pretty dry?
So the staves themselves, there's no actual liquid inside the barrel when we get them.
Mm-hmm.
So to the eye, they're dry. But usually staves will hold a couple gallons worth of rum inside of them.
Yeah, so everything is really drawing from the actual staves.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you want. You want some of the oak, you want some of the staves, you
exactly.
You don't really want some of that extra, liquid in there that could really throw off the blend.
Because at the end of the day, when you're doing a finished product, you don't want it to taste like I just took a bottle of rum and put it into the whiskey.
Yeah.
You want it to taste like it has the essence of the rum that's going to keep from it naturally sitting in there without that, dosage done to it.
Yeah. And we've all like, experienced those bottles or those, blends where that it's basically just, stuff that's been dumped right in there and just blended it right in. I mean, it's so dominant. I mean, that's the thing. You can really tell the difference with these and this. I mean, for that relatively short period of time, it picked up a really nice influence on the rum, and I think it probably got pulled at the right time because, as you guys know, I mean, rum could dominate that at some point. It'd be so sweet.
Exactly. And it said the last thing you want it to do is to dominate that final product.
Yeah.
So, but I said, the one thing that, prior to me talking and doing this with Karthik is, I wanted to make sure that when we're doing these type of projects that, it's not rushed, that we're going to let it take the time that it needs to get done. There's too many times been under the gun to try and rush something out. And that's, we want to put out something that we're proud of. So we wanted to make sure that he understood the process, how I do things.
Yeah.
And you know what, you may think the product's ready, but instead of proofing it down right away, we're going to take 3 months to proof this down just a little bit at a time. Which was great. Karthik completely was on board and agreed. He saw the difference in the techniques and the end product that he got. So, this was something that Karthik, we were planning on releasing back in May. We thought we had this already, but unfortunately, some things took longer and, it had to go through the right process.
Yeah.
So
because spirits, you've been getting into the spirits world quite a bit. It's a highly capital intensive, venture, and a lot of people want to get the product to the marketplace so that they can keep the company alive and keep it going. But we had plans that we are going to only blend twice a year because of the amount of time it's going to take. When we started putting together the whiskey program and all the steps it's going to take, each blend it's going to take us 6 months, minimum 6 months. So we are only able to do 2 blends at this moment. But as we scale, potentially we'll be able to do 3 blends in parallel.
Yeah.
But right now, this year we did 1 blend. Next year potentially we'll do 2 blends. And and then we released we're doing a private reserve program. What a private reserve program is, exclusively bottled for whiskey clubs or some retailers who want cask strength, right? And the private reserve program from our company will have both the rum and the rye whiskey, and we're going to go do only limited quantity. So RY3 we did a private reserve program this year. Only 550 bottles has been sold in the marketplace, and it's going to be available in only 3 different places. One is the Lincoln Road Package Store. That's one in Mississippi. The second one is One West DuPont and Washington, D.C., Prav Saraf. That's his pick. And the third one is Curiata, which is a craft e-commerce platform, and they ship it to 28 different states. These are the only 3 places where we are going to release our private reserve program. And this is you want to drink something without any cask finish at 119.4 proof. Be my guest, right? That's what I'm drinking right now.
Well, let me ask you this. So I'm sure this has probably crossed your mind whether you do it or not, but is there an idea to take this cask strength and do the same thing, blend it with the rum as well?
So you're talking about the cask strength on the blend?
Yeah, correct.
It's absolutely amazing. And Matt and I had absolutely crazy amazing. Matt and I were like, I don't want to proof it down. This is so good that I don't want to proof it down. We are we were looking at each other staring. How about we change our business plan and just go cask blend? But we stick to our plan, and every year our private reserve program is going to be different. But we will have next year we may plan to do a cask strength of the rum cask finish.
Yeah,
Cask.
if only we knew a couple guys in the industry who could get their hands on this stuff that, maybe like a couple of like YouTube guys could maybe do like a barrel pick or something of that. But, we'll have to talk about that. We'll have to talk about that down the road.
And I think one of the things too that, we have the ability too for you guys, or for other private groups, that we can do different finishes on it, different cask finishes, if somebody's interested in something like that. Yeah, I think we want to look to change it up, every year or two.
Yeah, I'm highly interested in an Armagnac finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fun. I mean, it's kind of refreshing to see brands who are willing to, work with other people to kind of do different things, to be very transparent and trying different things. I mean, I think that's just kind of how the whiskey world is, where so many people want to do different things, experience different things, and to be able to, have others kind of put their little touch on something and be able to offer it to other people is kind of a fun thing to do. So
that's the fun of it. To share that and do different things and collaborate, and it's just great.
Scott, if you scroll up the chat a little bit, Hank Butts actually had a good question about the rum cast. I think that'll be a nice transition to talk about the rum a little bit.
Sure.
There you go.
Okay, so yeah, it just says probably a dumb question. Which rum is the barrels that is finished in?
Yeah, so Hank, that's a really good question. It's not a dumb question at all. So everything we do at Phenomenal Spirits is blending. We are blenders by heart, by passion. As a company, our philosophy is it's an incubation platform to create exceptionally high quality spirits. We're going to stay agile, we're going to be innovative, we're going to be creative, and we're going to be transparent. And we're going to keep it out there in the marketplace and how we did it. If somebody wants to go and recreate it, be our guest, no problem. We're not worried about that competition or somebody trying to steal. We're not going to give the formulation, a percentage of formulation and some of those techniques. Other than that, we're going to give everything. The rum finish is Ron Izalco Rum. That's our, the first product which we created. And again, it's a blend of Nicaragua, Guatemala, and Panama. And that's what Scott and Jason are seeing, what they have kept in on their beautiful, table out there. And that's what it is. And that's the barrels. The barrels, we cannot control where the barrels would come from. Some of the barrels are Nicaragua. Some of the barrels could be, Guatemala, could be from anywhere for that matter. So we source it directly from the distillery, and and we have that opportunity to blend it and finish it. Yeah. Thank you, Jason. So this is a rum which started. This is a 10-year expression. It's aged in ex-bourbon barrel. The char level 4. It's a 43% alcohol. A beautiful sipper, and a great introduction to a rum on a high quality side. Right. That's the first expression we have, and we have a second expression of rum called Ron Izalco 15, which is a cask strength. It's 110.6 proof, 55.3. No sugar, no vanillin, no caramel, no color, no nothing added. Pure as it can ever get. And that blend has Nicaragua, Guatemala, Panama. It has, Guyana and Costa Rica too. Fantastic. It's the 15-year is a lot more drier, a lot more hoppier, and has a finish of about 15 to 20 second kind of a finish. It's got a lot of density in the liquid, sits in your mouth. Excellent sipping rum.
And are the 10 and the 15 basically the same blends, just different ages?
No, absolutely different.
Okay. Okay.
Different blend, absolutely different. So we didn't want to do a product, one expression and slightly higher expression. No, we, like I said, we believe in creativity. We believe in let's innovate in the subcategory world. And what we did was, I use this analogy. We're driving on a freeway. We took a right turn to make a Izelko 10. On the same freeway, we took a left turn to make Izelko 15.
Yeah, and what night and day, like putting them next to each other. The 10, super sweet, a lot of that, like what you'd expect from a rum. And then you get into the 15, it almost smells a little bit more bourbony, where it's like you can tell there's that depth to it. It's not quite as sweet.
Right. And these rums are aged in ex-bourbon barrel. It's char level 4. It's got a lot of oak in it.
Yeah.
Beautiful, amazing tannins. So excellent sipping rum. Last year we were awarded as the rum trophy of the year by International Spirits Competition. Double gold. gold medal in San Francisco World. So a lot of accolades, so we have been blessed by the industry, to give us a lot of accolades for a young brand who's been in the existence for 3 years now.
Yeah. Well, why don't we dive into the RY3 first? We'll kind of do a little tasting, and I didn't want to bring all my notes and stuff because I still want to be able to do a review and not spoil everything for the most part. but I guess I really wanted to kind of hear from the horse's mouth, like a little bit of like when you guys are tasting it, what are you kind of getting? Like, what are some of the things that you start to kind of, pull out, nosing and tasting? So
are we tasting the RY3 or are we tasting?
Why don't we start with the RY3 and then we can go to just maybe the cask strength that I know Karthik's got that. Matt, do you have this one as well?
I do not have that with me.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Why don't we start with we'll start with the RY3. I think all of us have that. Maybe Karthik doesn't either. I don't know if he does.
You're talking about the RY3? No, I'm sorry. Like I said, the founder of the company does not have his own booze, unfortunately.
It's not the first time I've heard that. So it's everybody always thinks that the people who produce everything can always get it, but half the time they don't even have it themselves. So
yeah. So what I have is a RY3. It's a cask strength. Yeah.
So that's the one you've got. Okay. So now what you've got is the cask strength finished in the rum casks.
No, it is not.
Okay, you just have the private reserve.
Yeah, it's a private reserve. It's 100 and how much is 119.3 or 4 proof, I think.
118.4.
Yep,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with that and just kind of go over some of that. It's the first thing I got off this was like a nutty characteristic to it a little bit on there. Like almost like a creamy nut, like a cashew. There's something very like creamy about it.
Yeah, that with almost like a candied aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
To me, I got candy apple with mint.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you definitely get the mint there for sure.
There and the green apple is
definitely some green apple. It was very like that was one of the things. It was like you think of like almost a little bit of like I don't want to. This might sound bad, but like a watered down perfume where it's not so intense, but there's that sweet like just that like whatever you get in a sweet perfume, like a lot of that in here. But
it definitely is very floral.
Very floral.
Very tropical, and a lot of floral notes, a lot of citrus notes.
One of the things that also helps, we talk about the slow water reduction. That really helps with the nose and the finish of the product. And it really tends to bring out a lot more of those floral notes to it.
There's a little bit of an apricot note to it, I'm getting.
Matt, can you touch on the slow water reduction process and kind of like what it does to the overall like profile and like the quality of the product in the end?
Yeah, definitely. So basically what is exactly what it sounds like. What we're doing is we're just adding water slowly to the product, both in quantity and over time. So, we're coming from, 119.4, is the cask strength version, and we're bringing that down to 100 proof. And we're going to take 3 months to do it. So that's just adding a little bit of water, every day, just a little bit of time, dripping it in, and just being very delicate with the product. We spent months and months developing this and, with blending the different components together, putting it into the casks, and then bringing it back together. The last thing you want to do is rush that proofing down process and adding water to it too quickly, which can cause saponification, which is basically you'll start bringing out a soapy component to it. So just being really gentle with the product. The same thing when we're blending the tanks together. It's slowly cycling the whiskey over and over. You don't think of it as a delicate product, but you definitely treat it that way. And that comes out in the final product of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The as I mentioned earlier, my first couple pours I just cracked this open over the weekend with a buddy of mine, and we were finding it actually very rye forward in the beginning, and it was coming in a little bit hot than we thought for 100 proof. And then as we let it sit and as we let it get some air in it, now, I mean, really, when you nose it now, it's like night and day. The mintiness, the apple note, there's some of those pineapple. I mean, you could kind of differentiate whatever tropical note you want in here. I mean, I was picking up, for me, I was getting more of a mango note in here than anything, which I thought was interesting over the coconut, but it definitely comes through as this opens up a little bit. It's super interesting, but it keeps the spice as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's still a rye.
Yeah, exactly. And
that spice note to it.
And Scott nailed it before. There is a nutty quality to it. You know, it might be cashew or almond or one of those notes that are coming through here.
Yeah, and the one other thing I was kind of trying to pull out before was there's almost a little bit of like a piney aspect to it as well. But the one thing for me personally that I like that it doesn't ever transition over to was I'm not a fan of dill in rye. I think it becomes too dominant a lot of times, and this I like that there's some mint. But a lot of other like you know, there's some herbal characteristic to it from the rye. Yeah. So it's a really nice, well balanced, you know, rye. I think it's one that definitely needs to sit out for a little while just to let it open up a little bit.
And that's, you know, we kept going back and forth on the final proof on what we're going to set it at, and you know, went through tons of different iterations. And unfortunately, you know, what we were finding is when you brought it below that 100 proof. Yeah, it really kind of it wasn't holding up to what we would want as a sipping whiskey.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. So Whiskey Tornado in the chat, he actually, if you guys haven't checked out Whiskey Tornado, please do so. Lance is putting out some great content. I think he just hit 500 subs, so congrats to you, buddy.
Great.
He mentioned Angel's Envy rye. Now, that's probably the only comparison we can do when it comes to, I think Templeton, he also mentioned, did a rye as well. That was finished in rum. But I think Angel's Envy rye is the one that people tend to think about when they think of a rum finished rye. Mm-hmm. But that one is like drinking pure maple syrup and marshmallows. Yeah. It's way too far on the sweet side. It's like I feel like in that whiskey, they literally poured some rum in there. They left those barrels very wet or left them in for an insane amount of time, and you lose that rye aspect. Whereas this, if you're a purist rye drinker and you want some of that spice still with a little bit of that influence of a really good rum cask, then you'll probably enjoy this way more than the Angel's Envy.
Yeah.
So Jason,
at the end of the day, we don't want it to have that. You know, when you're doing some type of cask finish, you don't want it to dominate the product itself. You know, you're not drinking rye mixed with rum. You know, you just want that little bit of an essence with it.
Yeah. So, Jason, to your point, you know, some great commentary, some great taste notes from both Scott and Jason. Some questions which I was reading, I'm going to answer those questions too. I think when we were developing the product, the vision was we have to respect the tradition of rye and the taste notes and the flavor profile and what people are expecting. That is absolutely necessary. The cask finish cannot overtake the rye whiskey. The rye whiskey, the foundation of rye whiskey needs to stay intact. That was the number one, which we cannot compromise. The second one what we wanted to go after was Matt and I sat down and we started writing down what are the things which we want in our product. The second thing was how can we shave off some of the rough, harsh edges. Sometimes a rye whiskey can have a lot of, bite to it. Can we shave it off? Can we round it off a little bit by cask finish? And that was the second thing what we wanted to do. And the third thing was we wanted it to be a higher proof. Now the 40 ABV nobody respects anymore. So you got to start somewhere in 47 nowadays. So we wanted to be at 50. 50 was the right approach. You can drink neat or on the rocks or can make an amazing cocktail, but yet it cannot have the bite. The 50 should be evenly balanced. And these are big demands by me to Matt. Matt, I said, this is these are the things which we need to achieve. And how are we going to do it? And that's why it took us a long time to, release the product. I mean, if I ideally as a founder, as a vision, I would have liked to release it last year itself. But, formulation takes time, guys. It takes a long time,
Starting right in the middle of COVID was not necessarily our
that wasn't part of the business plan, I guess.
No.
Yeah. And I see Andrew Webster just said, He just picked up a bottle. Thank you, Andrew. Really nice of you. Some people ask the question whether this is a Solera aged rum. No, this is not a Solera aged. This is a straight aged in ex-bourbon barrel. Most of the, so 97% of the rum in the world are made from molasses. And, it's fermented, distilled, it's molasses. So only 3% of the rum in the world is directly sugarcane pressed, which is agricole style rum, right? So that's, and the second thing here is the Spanish style rum, which is ours is a Spanish style rum. This is aged in ex-bourbon barrel. All these barrels are coming from Kentucky itself. And then once we have then the same rum barrels, we are using it for rye finish. So it's the cycle is remaining in the Kentucky world is what I'm trying to tell you.
Should we play a clip of Lion King singing "Circle of Life"?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. There's so many people get fixated on mash bills that there's so many other things that play into the quality of a product and how it's ultimately developed and bottled. And that's the thing. I mean, just listening to both of you touch upon what goes into the blends, I mean, you can see that this process is probably a bit different than a lot of other people where it's maybe a little bit more factory oriented, where there's more, it's more like methodical. It's kind of like, to a T, where this, you can really kind of put your own thumbprint on it and let it either develop, let it go longer, pull it sooner, whatever it may be. And that's nice that you're not, it doesn't have to be out July 1st. And no matter what it is, that this is what's coming out, that if it needs to go August 1st or whatever it may be, that you can allow the spirit to tell you when it's ready to go.
And there's people, I've worked for, I've done things for in consulting that, when going through these things, they want that process. They want it, to say, we're going to put X amount in, the exact percentages, and it's going to age in something for this long, and it'll be ready on this date.
Yeah.
And there's usually a lot of frustration when I come out and see that's not personally what I do. It's something that it's ready when it's ready. As your barrels change, as your stock changes, your percentages are going to change. Yeah. It's a natural living, breathing product. That's aging every day.
You're constantly looking after it, making sure it doesn't go too far the other way. And by the way, this rum, if any of you guys are into sipping rums, this stuff is, what did we say, Scott? It's like drinking.
It was literally
It's like the best banana walnut pancake syrup you could have.
It was exactly that. Like, I mean, no kidding. Like, my wife makes great pancakes, and I can't confirm or deny whether or not some of this may go into my maple syrup on Saturday morning. So it is really, I mean, when I cracked the bottle, it was literally like maple nut. I mean, it was such a good smell. And what I like about the 10 and the 15 is that they're completely different. I mean, one has got the sweetness, and the 15 has more of that like bourbon where it's rounded. There's some depth to it.
Yeah.
I got to give a quick shout out to my boys at the Old Dirty Bootleggers Bourbon Club here in Virginia Beach. It was them who helped me with my late nights of bottling. A couple of them helping with me with dumping barrels. But along with them, it was Izalco 15 and a lot of cigars, at 3, 4 in the morning while dumping barrels and blending.
Yeah.
But, that 15 year is just phenomenal.
Well, if those old dirty bastards needed any more help with the blending and some cigar smoking, I will volunteer for that. So that's good job, guys. Good job.
Yeah. Scott and I were already like what cigar, like what really good spicy cigar where we could pair with this sweet goodness.
Yeah, they're both really interesting ones because they would definitely pair really well. Just different kinds of cigars. Like it would have to be something completely different for these rums. But
the Perdomas are fantastic. Arturo Fuente, my father, is fantastic. Those are like the Nicaraguan cigars really, really goes
Big
well
and
with
bold. Like the Nicaraguan really holds up well. I mean, that's what's nice about the Nicaraguan cigars is that they're big and bold, and they pair well with something that's got a lot of sweetness and stuff. So they kind of play off of each other really well. So
yeah, I actually shot a note to my contact in Central America saying, hey guys, let me know a cigar manufacturer if they want to partner with us. We have a rum and a rye whiskey. We'll do some partnership and get the beauty of the product to our friends in America.
Yeah, or get some of your rum barrels to them and let them age some of their tobacco in it.
Yeah.
The 15-year tastes like tobacco, pineapple laced tobacco.
It's exactly that was one of the things I was thinking. There's a tropical tobacco note to this. It's very tobacco-y.
It's pineapple laced. Like you guys need to, how you get some whiskey aged cigars. Freaking age a whiskey in this. Age a cigar with this stuff. Oh my god.
You're already talking my idea. My idea is already coming out from your mouth here.
Our thing is that he travels with lots of cigars. He has his travel humidor everywhere he goes, and
I think I see Jason doing a trademark search right now. That's what he's doing. I think he's trademarking that, so you can't steal it out of him.
Yes.
So, no,
I'm changing. I'm just adding a letter in front of Izalco. Just gonna add a little J in front of that. Izalco. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. Now, in the link to the description or whatever you want to call it below, I've got links to all of this. So if you guys want to find the Izalco rums, you can go there. Same with the RY3. Let me drop the link in. Unless Jason, I know you have more of a direct link to the RY3. So
yeah, let me. I put the RY3 in there.
I'll tell you what, guys. I mean, for this price and what it is you're getting, 100 proof is a really nice proof with this. It really shines. I mean, don't get fooled thinking that you need to have a cask strength all the time. That this at 100 proof and the spice and complexity that it has, it's a really, really nice, finished rye whiskey. So good job.
I think the price point is probably rather than you guys doing amazing blending of this product and obviously what's in the bottle, because Scott and I did talk and we really do feel like it's something different, it's something unique. That price point for more purist rye drinkers that don't want to go to an Angel's Envy to get something in a rum finish, but that's overly sweet. Not only are you providing something that's sweet and spicy, great balance, has some good age blend in the bottle, but you're also, you're half the price than what Angel's Envy costs. And I think that's huge. And you're making it, a better accessible price point for people to try.
Yeah. Jason, just so your point, I sent a link in your private chat. It's actually a package of 3, Izalco 10, Izalco 15, and RY3 cask finish for $199 and free shipping. And they will send it to 28 or 29 states across America. And this is through Curiata. If you want to share it with the audience, if they are interested, this is like a gift pack. All 3 products together and free shipping and for $199. It's got can
you just? I don't know if I can share that in the.
I got it, Scotty.
Oh, you did. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Jason's a techie. He knows it.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I'm the opposite of that. So.
I just comment from Chris about if it's coming to Canada. We're trying. We're working on it. We put a pretty solid effort put forth this past summer. But we're hoping 2021 it'll be making its way up there.
Yeah.
And Chris, maybe if you know somebody, in the United States who's willing to send you like some maple syrup or something, maybe this would, work in a package or something. I'm not saying, but.
All right, guys. I just dropped the link in the chat if anyone's wanting to try the 10, the 15-year, and the rum cask finish. That's a really good deal for 200.
It really is. That's
really nice, especially if you're into rum. This, like you said, the rum is there's no added anything to this. This is pure as it gets.
Yeah, and a lot of the blending comes in. So I know there's a lot of times where you get I don't mean in terms of in terms of what the definition is, but where you get rums from Barbados or whatever. This is involving some blending. So again, you've got a lot going on. You've got people that are putting together a solid blend of these different rums to produce this. And the 10 and 15, even though they may have the same name and some different age statements, they are night and day. They're very interesting.
Completely night and day. Yeah.
So we started the rum brand in France, then we went to Denmark, then Poland and the UK. So we covered like the main 4, rum drinking, countries in, Europe. And then we came to America. In America, we just came this year. And currently we are available in Mid-Atlantic, Washington, D.C., Delaware, Maryland, Connecticut, California, and in Illinois through Spirit Hub e-commerce in Illinois. They ship it, domestic in their states.
Yeah, and I've got all of this stuff linked below to all the websites. You guys will ultimately be able to track it down through the links in here, the links in the description below. All of that will be in there. So I think you're in for, one heck of a journey with all of these. So I mean, it's
nice plug there, Scott.
I know. I was waiting for somebody to say something. So every single time I say something with a little mention of journey, somebody always calls me out or whatever. But I really think, like Jason said before, I mean, for $200, including shipping for all 3 of these, it's a pretty good price. I mean, considering there are other whiskeys out there in the world that are already $200 doing something similar in terms of blending things, for what you guys, got.
Yeah,
so
plus you're putting it in a rum finish, which, we know those casks don't come cheap either. So the fact that you're including that and still keeping the price, below $60 is, it's huge in today's market. So I think that's why Scotty and I kind of really, when we talked about, wanting to collaborate on this, that's one of the things we thought was, really great, on the part of you guys. Not only are you getting quality when it comes to, who's blending it and the ideas behind it, but it's all, it all came together really well. So I definitely congratulate you guys on what you created here.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I mean, for us, when we wrapped up the production and then Matt and I sat down, okay, we need to reach out to people who really appreciate handcrafted products, and we started looking into Instagram, social media, and all those things. It was impossible to filter out. There's so many reviewers, but then we found Jason, we found Scott, and we like the idea that you keep your feedback honest. You're not asking money for reviews. There are people who have asked me for money for posting. So we want to stay, a little away from this. We have bootstrapped the company, and, we have not backed up by any big corporations. So we have put our heart and soul into, developing this product and getting to the marketplace. You are the judge, end of the day. You are the final consumer. The customer is king. And that's how I always say, and we made it for you guys, right?
Yeah. Well, and it reflects it. That's the one thing I always appreciate is when you get to talk to the people who have the passion for things and you see that translate over into the product. It's refreshing to see that, because we all know there's a lot of people that are out there just for the money part of it, and they kind of skip over a lot of the quality and all of that. And this is, in the whiskey world today, this is kind of refreshing to see this kind of quality and price point, match where it really should be, and be affordable for people to really, try something like this.
Yeah. And Scott and Jason, if you can see the bottle came from France. We picked it up from, beautiful bottle from France. The Izalco rum bottle is like a nice, aperitif. The rye bottle is more like a cognac or Armagnac style bottle. So and the label is a nice linen label. The cork is a real wooden cork with mahogany, with a laser engraved. There's no plastic or, there's no rubber on it. So everything we have tried to do is, really high end, and our margins might be low, but we really have done a high end, product to please the consumers, And
it reflects. So, I mean, great job on really all of that. So, All right. Well, we're a little over an hour, and I guess I want to ask, so in terms of the company and where things are going, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe, kind of, where we are now and what you kind of see happening, down the road a little bit?
No, 100%. So right now, this year, the main idea of this year was for us to expand into America, and we released in February in Mid Atlantic, and our product hit the distributor's warehouse end of February, and March first week we got an email saying it's COVID, everything is shut down. So our product never left the warehouse. But then even during this difficulty time, we have opened up, American market. What we want to do in the next 3 to 5 years is really get closer to the bourbon and the rye consumers, develop exceptionally high quality, consistent blends, and focus on the private reserve program, the cask strength program, the blending program, and get it to the consumer marketplace. We want to still stay in the super premium and ultra premium category. We don't want to be anywhere below that because quality matters for us. End of the day, we want to be recognized in 5 years or so as these guys are the legitimate craft blenders in the marketplace. These guys know what they're doing. They know the consumer's heartbeat, the pulse, what American people love about rye whiskey and and bourbon, or just the American need, and that's what we are trying to do, both on the rum side and on the rye side. Eventually, we may go for investments to get to increase our production capacity and and drive the sales. Matt and I even spoke about having our own still and making our own juice so that we can start aging eventually. So these are in plans. But the next 5 years, expansion into each state. Want to get closer to people, be real, no BS, no bootlegging stories, no made up stories, no mountains, no creeks, no nothing. Just keep it legitimate, be human, be real, and that's what we want.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, transparency also plays a big role. As consumers, I think that's what most people want is if it's a blend, we want to know what's in it, where it's coming from. Bardstown Bourbon Company is doing an amazing job with that.
Yes.
And for you guys to be doing the same thing, I just think that just makes you a little bit more legit as you grow the business and get these more out to people. So, yep.
Right. We greatly appreciate the opportunity, folks, and also all the people who joined up here. That just the support makes us, feel more encouraged. We've been beat down pretty bad this year with the COVID, but our spirits are not low. But we're still fighting the good fight and putting the good products out there in the market.
Well, hopefully everybody with this stream, there's enough links in this thing and in the description below. So hopefully everybody will go and check it out. I mean, Jason and I, we're not blowing smoke. I mean, we don't just tell people things because that's what they want to hear. I mean, it's a legit product, and I think a lot of people will really appreciate it. And hopefully there might be even like a little Mash and Journey pick coming or something down the road or whatever.
There we go. There we go. At any point of time, if Jason and Scott, you guys want to do a battle pick or cask strength battle pick on the private reserve program along with the consumers, if you ever get to that point, do reach out to us. Hit us up in our Instagram, RY3 Whiskey, or Ron Izalco, and we would be happy to do that. That would be an ultimate honor for us.
Yeah, and that would be incredible. Thank God this is recorded, so that's nice. So we're probably gonna hold you to that. We're gonna hold you to that. So, but no, guys, thanks so much for joining tonight. Jason, thanks for jumping on with me. Karthik, thank you. Matt, thank you so much. I think this is nice to be able to introduce these kind of products to, people who may not know that those are out there and really get an idea of, there's other things besides what just the big boys are doing out there. So, kudos to you guys on hitting on, a lot of really key, things within the whiskey world. So hold tight. When I click off, don't go anywhere. You guys kind of hold tight, but and then everybody in the chat. So let me throw this in there one more time. So if anybody wants to go and make a purchase or whatever. You don't have to do it right this second, but down the road. And before, I think Jason put in there the $200 deal. That's a heck of a deal for all three of these products. So everybody who joined tonight and anybody watching the live stream, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, guys, thank you for joining tonight. And we'll hopefully see everybody again next time. And to you guys, cheers. And thanks for joining tonight. And we'll see everybody next Tuesday. Cheers.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you all.